Patrick Mahomes and offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy are feuding and bickering on the field in front of everybody, and it even had to be separated by Andy Reid. This is absolutely crazy and pretty ridiculous considering the fact that there had been whispers in the past that there had been a feud between Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes. Even when they lost against the Bengals in that matchup in the playoffs, people often wondered, was Eric Bieniemy the problem? Was his play calling pretty whack? Lack of communication? Then you see these guys really getting into it, and Andy Reid having to step in here. Pretty intense to have your star quarterback and your offensive coordinator feuding. Do you think this is going to cause problems for the Chiefs or what?
I mean, I don't know. There's LaShawn McCoy. He is a Bieniemy hater. He was a running back for the Chiefs in 2019, but then he was ultimately relatively inactive in the postseason and especially in the Super Bowl. And he shit on Bieniemy. He's upset with him, and he shit on him again when he saw this fight happen, where he basically just says, all Bieniemy does is yell at the players. He doesn't know anything about play calling, etc. There was also, this is according to Bro Bible, there's also Chiefs Kingdom, an operation formed in 1997 by an anonymous but well-connected insider.
Right.
They published an in-depth article exploring the role Bieniemy allegedly played in the loss, the AFC Championship loss of the Chiefs against the Bengals earlier this year.
Right.
And so that's since been deleted. If you try to click on that, it was like a Medium article that's deleted.
Right.
But
they said they took the story offline.
They took the story offline.
I have part of it popped up here. And then they pretty much said that they're not taking it off because, it's false. They had people obviously say that they're going to be unnamed sources, but they took it off just because it was causing some drama, right? Causing some drama online. Right. And that's the thing. Eric Bieniemy, he gets the interviews for the head coaching positions. Andy Reid's always like, oh, I can't believe he's not hired as a head coach. But when you're the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs and you have somebody like Andy Reid, who's an offensive-minded coach, it's hard to give the offensive coordinator credit, right? It's hard to give him credit for what's happening on the field because you're like, okay, the offense is pretty much run by Andy Reid, right? He's the offensive-minded coach. If he had been a D coordinator, then that's a different story, right? You could say, okay, this guy's running it completely on his own, and it's all him. The reason for the success. So that's something that's always kind of odd to me. And the fact that Andy Reid always wants Bieniemy to get hired. Oh, I can't believe he hasn't gotten a head coaching job. Yes, you want to say positive things about your colleagues, but if he was so great of a contributor, wouldn't you want to keep him for your own team? Kind of like the Patriots, what they did with Josh McDaniels for years. Oh, I want to keep this guy. I want to keep this guy because he's so good. I like him that much,
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy in May of this year on I Am Athlete, he said there's a reason why every year they keep hyping him up to get a head coaching job or an offensive coordinator job somewhere else, and he doesn't get one. He talks to players a certain way, and some players would take it. I wouldn't take it. There's some questions I'm going to ask. Everybody's accountable. It's not because he's a black coach that he's not getting hired. That's not the reason. Ooh. And then he continued saying no one hires him because they know what type of coach he really is.
Wow.
Yeah, strong words.
Strong words. And the key thing you said about the diversity aspect of it, he's a black coach. We know about the Rooney Rule. That's the reason why he's a candidate every year, is because through the Rooney Rule, teams have to interview minority coaches before interviewing anybody else, basically, right? And so the incentive that the Chiefs actually have in him getting hired by another team is the fact that when one of your staff, one of your coordinators is hired by another team as a head coach and they are a minority, your team gets a third-round compensatory pick. So the Chiefs would get a third-round pick if Bieniemy got hired as a head coach somewhere else. That's another incentive. And I actually think it might be multiple third-round picks. I'd have to check. But it is at least one, and that's enough to have an incentive to get him hired elsewhere.
Right, and of course, that's why Andy Reid would have every incentive to defend Bieniemy, and of course he did. He essentially threw McCoy under the bus back when that happened and said, well, maybe he fell off and, he can't take criticism very well. Right. But let's actually get into why this fight happened, though, in this last game. So they had, 20 seconds left on the clock in the second quarter. It was 2nd and 20. Chiefs had the ball at their 36-yard line. And I guess Bieniemy wanted them to just run the ball and run the clock down. Mahomes wanted to try and score again. They were up only 14-10 to the Colts. We know, what ended up happening with that game. The Chiefs only put like 3 more points on the board in the second half, and
they lost to the Colts.
They ended up losing 20-17. Yeah.
Right.
So maybe this is an issue. Like Bieniemy didn't have enough faith in Mahomes, or Mahomes wanted to go for it. Bieniemy was like, I don't want the I don't want to get a turnover here because you want to be risky and a showboater or something. I don't know. What do you think?
That's what I was thinking. To me, like, it's not really the decision. Oh, do we just play conservative, go to half, or do we try to do a Hail Mary and try to score? But we don't want to risk anything, don't want to fumble, get sacked, whatever. That to me is not really the issue here. The issue here right now between these two people is like undermining authority. Like, even it doesn't matter if it's the right decision or wrong decision in the chain of commands. Is Mahomes ahead of Bieniemy? We've seen some players and star quarterbacks throughout their history yell at their coordinators. I'm thinking Tom Brady with Josh McDaniels back when he was the coordinator in New England. He's yelling at him. You could clearly see the chain of command there if you're allowed to talk to him like that. And that's what I see here. Okay, maybe if Patrick Mahomes wanted to be aggressive there, why do you feel like you were actually able to yell at this guy and bicker back with him on the field in front of everybody? Why not even wait till you get to the locker room or something like that?
Really? That's your interpretation of it. Wow. I'm full disclosure, I'm a Raiders fan, so I hate this team more than anyone could possibly hate this team. But I think he looked like a polite, like, kind of scared child, and Bieniemy was just like wringing his neck. I don't think Tom Brady would have accepted that. I think Tom Brady would have broken 3 iPads across Bieniemy's forehead probably. But no, Mahomes looks like fairly polite. He just looks like kind of pissed off. And, the outcome of the game ends up kind of justifying Mahomes' anger here because he's wanted to put more points on the board. And the way that the Chiefs do that is by Mahomes making big plays and jacking up the score and demoralizing the other team. And jacking it up very quickly. So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't think Mahomes looked like the bad guy there. And then Andy Reid has to kind of...
I'm not necessarily like saying a bad... Let me just clarify. I'm not necessarily saying he looks like the bad guy. I'm saying the issue at hand is not whether or not it was the right decision or wrong decision in terms of the game, being aggressive or not being aggressive. The issue at hand is, who's higher on the totem pole? Who's allowed to talk to this person like this, Is Bieniemy. Is Bieniemy maybe overstepping his boundary by yelling at Mahomes like that? Maybe Mahomes is valued a lot higher than Bieniemy in Kansas City, especially when you have Andy Reid primarily running the offense. Yeah, like that's an issue too, and he perhaps is in the wrong. But I'm saying that's the core of the issue. That's the problem. That's something they're going to need to figure out, and it might end with Bieniemy being out the door no matter what, even if he's not offered another job elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Bieniemy's contract looks like, but I guarantee it's not $500 million. Like it's Mahomes.
Not, and I know he was up. He was, basically a free agent this past offseason. They did re-sign him. Not clear on the exact terms yet, but probably not as many guarantees as Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and as you'd expect, both Andy Reid and Mahomes downplayed the kerfuffle, whatever you want to call it. And Mahomes took credit for the loss, and he said, it was my fault. And let's see, he was 20 for 35 with 262 passing yards. First half touchdown pass to Travis Kelce. Mahomes led the team with 26 rushing yards as well. Smith-Schuster, he had like 5 catches for 89 yards. But they took credit for... Or I guess Mahomes took credit for the loss.
Right, they're going to do that.
Took credit's not the right term, but Kelce, I think, also apologized on Twitter to the fans. And
the one thing that I think they could resolve this issue, Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes, the way that we'll know that this issue is resolved is if we get a TikTok with Jackson Mahomes with Eric Bieniemy. Then we'll know everything's fine and dandy, and they're going to have a good relationship.
They had Bieniemy over for a family dinner, and they ended up making a TikTok. Yeah, that would be good. All
right, like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to this channel for more NFL content. My name is Wi-Fi Willie.
And I'm Dial-Up Audrey.
Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.